background, I believe that everything we want to win on the Senate floor has to first be won in the court of public opinion. And I would not hesitate to take to Sean Hannity, my daughter used to intern for him, to Rush Limbaugh, I used to know his mother before she died, or to Glenn Beck, with whom I've been in communication for the past 3 years. I would not hesitate to take anything that happens on the Senate floor or in my office in a backroom deal to their attention and to get it out there in the open and expose it. Now, that probably doesn't make me a very favorite candidate for those in Washington, D.C. and the establishment that want to have joined me. But somebody has to stand up. And I'm not afraid to do it.
I just wonder your policy on immigration. I've got friends who are Hispanic, who are married people that are here, that came illegally. They have children now that are citizens. I'm hearing people say, well, let's turn their children into non-citizens and let's send them back to their country. This particular person I'm thinking of right now came from an area that's heavily, they're drug trafficking and all kinds of problems, but a dangerous situation to go back there. They don't have a home to go to because the children don't belong there, they don't speak the language. And I've had other leaders say, well, we believe in the rule of law, but we have broken the law in letting them in illegally. We've got to do something to make a smooth transition. I know amnesty may not be the answer, but we've got to do something. What is your plan? How do we handle that?
Jason Chaffin said he'd fix all that.
Well, I know, you're going to send him in.
First, let me share with you that I do understand the dilemmas. I do understand that my mom taught me 2 wrongs don't make a right. So I think that's where we're at. So do we make it a right? If we continue to communicate the message to those who are coming here illegally, that they will eventually be assimilated and it will all be good, we will never solve this problem. We have to draw the line at some point, and we have to do it definitively. I do have the strongest illegal immigration policy in this race. And I think we have to get serious about this because I mentioned earlier 3 linchpins that are dragging this nation down. And this is one of them. So we have to remove the incentive for people to come here in the first place. We have to. Some are. I had a car stolen by an illegal alien.
I think that it's immoral to send them into a concentration camp or send them back to a place where they don't speak the language.
I have to speak to this on the level of principles again. Okay? What principles do we believe in? Do we believe in the rule of law? So where does the rule of law begin or end? As a legislator, not as a religious ecclesiastical leader. They have a different mission. Okay? Where does it begin for me as a senator? It's too lengthy to go over right now, but let me just share with you. We've got to end birthright citizenship. And I have a sister and brother-in-law who are on their 3rd mission in Mexico City right now. I've talked to them a great deal about how could the United States work with Mexico on that end and help solve this problem. And they've made it very clear to me that they don't think there's any hope on the Mexican end because it's so corrupt at the very core. So what we are doing right now, if we look at this, is we are importing poverty, crime, and terrorism, while we are exporting our manufacturing base, our service sector, and now our high-tech sector. So it's our choice. What do we want for our future? Do we want our jobs to keep leaving this nation? And this is segueing into my next little subject here that is pretty big. I stand alone on this. I'm against free trade. Because between illegal immigration, free trade, and as I said, the fiscal policies we're pursuing, have you noticed and heard the loud sucking sounds of our jobs leaving this nation? If you haven't, then you are unusual. Because I have been on the phone with many delegates all across the state. And I've been with them in person since last June. And I will tell you that the most commonly articulated concern is that my job has left this country and gone to New Mexico. Or there's one who's already had it happen. Or I am about to lose my job because my company is outsourcing to Southeast Asia or India or the Philippines. We have to be responsible as citizens in a free nation to take the steps that, in fact, our founders took to build this nation up. We are trading with Japan right now at such an unfair trade policy practice that we are, and did I say Japan or China? Well, Japan too. China is the number one though. But China, that we now have a $1.4 trillion trade deficit. Now, what does that mean? Does anybody know what that means? Does anybody think we can survive that if it keeps going this direction? Okay, I met with Club for Growth. Have you all heard of Club for Growth? They're the DC, Washington, DC organization that's trying to determine who wins this race in Utah. Hello? Yes? Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Okay. I had a 2-hour interview with them. Now, there's some things we can agree on, but there are 2 things that they asked me about that they were deeply concerned about my candidacy. One was that I oppose a constitutional convention. Now, frankly, I think a constitutional convention would be a very poor idea at this juncture, and it always happens that there are efforts abrue right now when people get very dissatisfied with government. They say, we've got to have a balanced budget amendment, we've got to have a term limits amendment, we've got to have line item veto amendment, we've got to have this amendment, that amendment, and then all of a sudden, all the states start percolating up and wanting a constitutional convention. If we want to put our constitutional convention in the hands of the people that are in Washington, D.C. right now, then let's do it. And we will have lost everything we ever got from our families. I oppose a constitutional convention. Club for Growth thinks it's a great idea to put all those ideas together in the hopper and that the best ideas are going to emerge. I think that is foolish. Free trade, they said, so. They saw who I supported in the past, okay? Patrick Buchanan. He's been a prophetic man in what's happened to this nation. And if you haven't read him before, I think you go get The Great Betrayal, you get Day of Reckoning, and you're going to see the truth in what he is writing. He has been. And everybody's been mocking him for many years. And I'm used to being mocked, okay? Back in the ERI days. So, what's the problem with Club for Growth and my policy on being opposed to unfair trade practices? They think it's a good idea. When I said 9% of our debt is owned by China, they said that's healthy. Why? Because China will have the best interest of our country at heart. And I want to ask you, my friends who've been around longer than some of you younger ones, and you can remember, since when has a communist country ever had the free world's interest at heart? Never. We have lost our leverage with that nation that is dumping on us at such a rate. You know, one of Ronald Reagan's top advisors called me up not long ago. He lives in Idaho. He had an apple orchard. He said, please tell the people in Utah that a year before China started dumping on our market their apples, I had a thriving business. Within that year, my business was gone. Now, my opponents, where's my back? My opponents will say that, well, if we just take away all the regulations and EPA, OSHA, whatever else, corporate taxes, we'll be just fine, and then we can compete. I want to tell you, those numbers are not going to lie, and I'm not going to let that happen to our nation under, as long as I would have anything to say about it. Here, and we're going to blow this up, but here's what we look like right now. This is our debt structure. This is Japan. Japan owns us more than any other nation. Next is China. Did I say Japan? Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong, but anyway, this is China.